Okay, Mr. Lucas, we we uh we accomplished the first season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. We animated all the episodes. We got a full 5 season order from Cartoon Network.
Very good, Dave. So, but one minor altercation will befall your TV series. I was thinking, without without ever thinking of my second gold-plated pool that I would like to put in my backyard at some point, I think we should combine the first few episodes of this television series and make it a theatrical release. That way, you can make more money.
But Mr. Lucas, we, our animation can't possibly compete with the other theatrical animated movies at this time. I mean, we're just doing TV animation. That's what was in my contract. and and surely our animation will get better with time, but at this point I think it would be a mistake to release it theatrically. I mean, if we just combine these 3 episodes into a movie, then the movie would feel very episodic. It would feel very disjointed. I don't think the final product would be as good as we intended it to be on TV. I mean, movies are a whole different ballpark, and I don't mean to question the master, but
Dave, who's the master here?
you.
And who's the avid fan puppet?
Me.
Smart boy.
Tell me that's how the conversation didn't go down. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated movie, is just that, an animated movie that basically serves as an extended pilot episode for the Clone Wars TV series that aired a few months later. I mean, it came out in August 2008. The TV show premiered, I believe, in early October of that same year. So in order to actually know what's going on in the series, you have to watch the movie. And this might be the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen in theaters. It's not the worst Star Wars movie, period. That dishonorable title still goes to the holiday special, but this is the worst one to be released theatrically in my book. Because you can just tell it was made for TV. I mean, it doesn't even seem like a theatrical release. It just seems, and yeah, that it is true that George Lucas essentially took 3 or 4 episodes and meshed them together into a movie and then released the movie theatrically. Why? I don't know. He wanted to make more money. But the thing is, the result is the movie feels it feels kind of fragmented. It feels almost distractingly episodic at times. It's the pacing is all over the place. I mean, this film has no consistent pace to it. But let me start with the story. The story, it takes place between episodes 2 and 3, hence why it's called The Clone Wars. I have no idea where in the Clone Wars it takes place, whether it takes place before the TV serial or after. The most common theory I've heard is that this Clone Wars takes place between volumes 1 and 2 of the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars. So that's my theory. I'm sticking to it. But yeah, it takes place between episodes 2 and 3, and the plot of the movie deals with Jabba the Hutt's son getting kidnapped by some mysterious force. It was Count Dooku. And the Jedi, in order to secure free passage, free, safe, convenient passage through Jabba's trade routes, the Jedi volunteer to rescue Jabba's son. But then Count Dooku promises Jabba the same thing, and all the while it turns out that Yoda secretly assigned Anakin Skywalker a Padawan learner. Actually, no, that's too stupid. I'm just going to call her his apprentice. Yoda assigned Anakin an apprentice named Ahsoka Tano. And the movie basically revolves around her, Anakin, and Obi-Wan as they try to outwit Count Dooku and get Jabba's son back to him. You can easily see by the plot of this thing that it is not meant to be released in theaters. It is not meant to be seen as anything other than a series of TV episodes. It's a TV story arc. I mean, this is so... You could just tell that there was no effort put into making this seem like a theatrical movie. They did not change any of the plot. They didn't edit it any different. They didn't add any additional scenes, or at least none that I could figure. I mean, the whole thing just feels like 3 episodes smashed together, which is what it is. Now, I will review the Clone Wars probably season by season, because the Clone Wars TV series is better, and it gets better as it goes season by season. So I will probably do a season by season review of that. But the movie, though, the first thing I notice is how bad the animation is. And there are some points where it looks okay, but for the most part, the animation is so stiff and so lifeless that you cannot believe. I still can't believe how bad it is, considering how good the animation could have been had Lucas bothered to... I mean, how much money was involved in this thing? I mean, you'd think Lucas would be able to afford some quality animation. You'd think there would be a quality animator out there who would take immense joy in animating a Star Wars movie. But no, the animation is just so stiff. I mean, the characters barely move. I mean, their facial expressions, each of the characters has basically one facial expression that undergoes minimal change. And it's not one of those things where it's done for stylistic purposes, like the Tartakovsky Clone Wars did, where it would have a still shot and one solitary feature of the shot move, just for atmospheric or stylistic purposes. No, it's not like that. It's just this horrible animation, barely moving, and it's really something. I mean, especially considering how far the series has come since then. It is so bad. It is so uninspired. It is... Wow. I can't believe they expected people to pay money to watch this. And it would be one thing if the movie had a good script. And for a Saturday morning cartoon, I guess it's not that bad, but I have a problem with this script for 2 reasons. Or I have a problem with the story for 2 reasons. A, I would argue that the the first story arc of your brand new Star Wars TV series would be a little stronger than Jabba the Hutt's son gets kidnapped. I mean, I would hope it would be a little stronger than that. Second, what may work for a TV pilot may not necessarily work for a theatrical movie. I mean, movies are an entirely different ball game. I mean, this would be like if, for Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, instead of putting forth the effort to make an entire movie, an entire full-length, overarching movie with a movie script, with a movie quality script, Bruce Timm and the guys over at Warner Brothers Animation, Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, those guys, it would be like if they just cobbled together some random episodes where Batman fights some random villains and then edited it together and called it a movie, called it like The Adventures of Batman or something generic like that. I mean there would be no plot. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me not quite to this extent of confusion, but it reminds me of the Digimon movie. From I think the late 90s is when it came out. That movie, I've never seen Digimon before, but I could tell that movie was just 3 separate movies cobbled together, and none of the 3 segments had anything to do with each other. I mean, it was just 3 random, about half-hour segments where the characters, again, it felt very episodic. It felt very fragmented. It's not quite that bad here because yeah, the story relates back to. I mean, the sections of the movie relate back to each other because, again, it is a story arc. But again, the pacing and the overall flow of the movie really suffers for it. And another problem with the script, the characters are boring. The characters are so boring in this movie. I mean, I will give them points for not going with a whiny Anakin Skywalker. I mean, they basically change Anakin Skywalker's voice. They change his way of speaking. They change his character. They make him more confident. They make him kind of a brash young hero. But the thing is, they make him kind of wooden. Honestly, I mean, they make him wooden. They make him boring. They don't really make him all that interesting. Same with Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's still voiced by James Arnold Taylor, but he's kind of on the same boat as Skywalker, where he's not. Where I don't want to say he's not given much to do, but he's not really given much dramatic material to work with. I mean, it's just him. I mean, the whole movie just revolves around him and Skywalker basically saying like, we have to go here, we have to do this, we have to rescue Jabba's son for this. Oh no, Asajj Ventress is here. We have to fight her now. Oh no, we have to get across this desert. I mean, there is no chance to really build any character. I mean, there is. And Ahsoka Tano herself is just really annoying. I mean, it's not just me being a cynical moviegoer. No, I've gotten several agreements on this. I mean, again, she has since grown into a relatively likable character in the series, but in the movie itself, she is so annoying and she is so irritating that when I watched this for the first time, I was just like, really? We're gonna have to deal with this chick for the entire series. But yeah, she's she's always coming up with these really dumb nicknames for everything. I mean, she's always arguing with Skywalker. I mean, it's supposed to be endearing, but it's not. It's just irritating how she has no respect for authority. She talks back to the clone troopers like, "Oh, hey, I'm a Jedi. I guess I outrank you, huh?" And you know what? I actually kind of like the clone troopers if they had more character. I mean, if they had more screen time, if they had more to do. Like, Skywalker has this clone, this second in command clone, named Captain Rex. And the thing with, you see a bunch of different clones once in the movie. You see the clones, you see a bunch of clones in the hangar bay with their helmets off, and they all have different hairstyles. Some of them have tattoos. They have different armor. They have slightly different tone of voices. So that would have been interesting if we had gotten any time to spend with them. But the whole movie just revolves around getting Jabba's son back to him. I mean, there is nothing else going on besides that central conflict. There is no drama. There is no character development. There is nothing here except for that bare bones, action-oriented plot. And that's another problem with the movie. There is way too much action. I mean, anyone who had a problem with the excess of action in Revenge of the Sith, strap yourself in, because there is a whole slew of that in this one. I mean, and again, there are some who might argue, well, wasn't that basically the same thing as the Tartakovsky Clone Wars? Well, yeah, but the thing is, A, that took more moments to breathe. B, that was a TV serial. I mean, that was a series of 2 or 3 minute shorts. Of course, it was going to have a lot of action. So yeah, but there's an action. When drama needs to happen in this movie, it is replaced by an action scene. It's like Quantum of Solace, that really crappy Daniel Craig James Bond movie. Except that one had, I don't know if this film was one of those affected by the 07-08 writer's strike, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was, because this movie is just so boring in how little drama there is, and how little character development there is, and how much action there is. I mean, the action isn't even really that good. I mean, there are like 2 or 3 lightsaber duels, which feels so. I mean, there is no fluidity to these lightsaber duels. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe. I mean, it's like they. It's like they skipped a few frames when animating this, because what happens is, if someone is slashing at their opponent here, if their opponent is here and they are slashing at them with their lightsabers, they animated this frame and they animated the slashing frame, but it's like they took out the frames, or at least some of the frames where you actually see them swinging. I mean, you lose that sense of motion. I mean, the lightsaber duels just feel mechanical. They feel very soulless. I mean, say what you will about the lightsaber duels from the prequels, at least you got some sense of motion, even if it did feel kind of like a dance. At least you knew that the actors were really moving. I mean, here it just feels even more artificial, to tell you the truth. But what else? I can't really complain too much about the voice acting. I mean, the writing does not help, but the voice acting is for the most part satisfactory for some of the actors. Like Matt Lanter, I believe his name is. He does all right as Anakin Skywalker. He tries to insert some kind of charm and sense of fun and adventure into it. The writing does not help, but I sound like a broken record at this point. Ashley Eckstein voices Ahsoka Tano, and she has plenty of energy, which I think is necessary for a younger character like this, but it's, at least at this point in the series, it is completely wasted on a very annoying character. Um, James Arnold Taylor probably fares the best out of the three of them because his Obi-Wan Kenobi is actually fairly consistent with the personality of the one from the Tartakovsky series, um, where he another instance where he voiced Obi-Wan Kenobi, um, and he does get the occasional good line every now and then, or I don't want to say good line, but line that is entertaining because it is just so stupid, like uh, like he calls Asajj Ventress "my darling" at one point. So yeah, he probably fares the best, although still not that great. Um, they changed the voice actress for Asajj Ventress. I mean, she is no longer voiced by Grey Delisle, and at first I was kind of disappointed because I really liked the like I said in the earlier review, I liked the Darth Eartha Kit um, aspect they gave to her voice, but here they make her seem a little bit more. Here she's voiced by an actress named Nika Futterman, and who makes the voice a little bit more organic. I mean, it really doesn't seem quite as forced. I mean, with Grey Delisle, you can tell she was making an effort to put that voice forward. I mean, it was still a good job, but you could tell she was, like I said, she was making an effort to exude that voice. With Nika Futterman, it sounds more natural. It sounds more human, and but at the same time, it sounds very dark. It sounds very mysterious. And she does get better as the series goes on. So Nika Futterman is pretty good as Asajj Ventress. Christopher Lee, who at this point in time was actually doing a fair bit of voice acting. Like I think this came out a year or two after Kingdom Hearts 2, where Christopher Lee voiced Ansem the Wise in the English dub of that game. So here he voices his character from the prequels, Count Dooku, but for some reason, as two-dimensional as Count Dooku is in this movie, I mean, he is written terribly in this movie. But as two-dimensional as he is, Christopher Lee puts more effort into voicing this character than actually he actually did playing the character. So that was actually kind of surprising. I mean, you get much more emotion out of his voice than you ever did from his performance. And that's not to say his performance was bad. His performance was one of the best things about episode 2 and 3. But the thing is, like I said, I mean I don't know what they did. I don't know what they said to him in the recording studio, but kudos to Christopher Lee. Tom Kane is still okay as Yoda, although he's not really given many lines. Oh, Corey. I'll get to Corey Burton, but D. Bradley Baker voices all the clones, and unlike the Tartakovsky series, these clones have that kind of New Zealand accent that Jango Fett had. So I got to give him that for consistency. And at the same time, D. Bradley Baker also gives each and every clone his own kind of his own tone of voice and essentially his own personality. I mean, you get to see more. I keep saying this, but you get to see more of his vocal variety later in the series. But for what little he was given to do here, he actually did a really good job with the clones. So again, very good job on the part of D. Bradley Baker. Samuel Jackson is actually really bad. I mean, if Christopher Lee put more emotion into his vocal performance, Samuel Jackson put far less. I mean, he has like 5 lines in the entire movie, but he just sounds like he's about to fall asleep. I mean, I think I mentioned in the prequels that he sounded like he was on some type of relaxant. Um, but here it's like Will Smith in After Earth. I mean, he just sounds so out of it. He is so bad in this movie, but I hesitate to say that he is quote unquote in this movie because again, he only has like 5 lines, if that. But yeah, you'll forget that he's there very quickly. And the last voice actor I want to talk about is Corey Burton. Corey Burton is a good voice actor, but the character that they give him is quite possibly, actually no, I know this for a fact. This is my God's honest opinion. Corey Burton voices Jabba's uncle, who speaks English. His name is Zero the Hutt, and this is the most annoying character to ever come out of Star Wars, in my opinion, because he is just the most irritating, flamboyantly feminine, Truman Capote-esque character I've ever seen. I mean, he is so stupid. He's painful to listen to. I mean, he's like a senator in this neighborhood. And I see this guy on screen. I'm like, are you kidding me? No. You have got to be kidding me with this guy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing on screen. I mean, he's out of nowhere. This Zero the Hutt guy. And apparently he was a favorite in the studio. I mean, he was a studio favorite. The creators of this thing actually really liked the character of Zero the Hutt. Why? He's the worst thing to ever come out of Star Wars. He's worse than Jar Jar Binks, in my opinion. I'll probably get disagreements on that, but I am going on record as saying that Zero the Hutt irritated me far, far more than Jar Jar Binks. God, I really hated this guy. I mean, when he popped up on screen, the movie went from bad to terrible. But I got nothing else. I'm gonna end this review on Zero the Hutt. Zero the Hutt. I mean, the whole thing just resolves itself at the end. I mean, Jabba's son is returned to him. The Emperor gives his generic evil speech like everything is going as planned. And he does his shtick. Except he's not voiced by Ian McDermott. He's voiced by Ian Abercrombie, who does not sound like Ian McDermott, but he does a decent job. But yeah, Jabba's son is returned to him. The Jedi are all happy. They get the trade routes. Anakin has his new apprentice, and it paves the way for the series. I mean, there's nothing aside from the fact that they introduce Anakin Skywalker's apprentice. There is no reason to watch this movie. There is very nearly nothing here that will keep your attention. Because, like I said, every 5 minutes they are going off to some other mediocre action scene. They are, I mean, the film is paced so inconsistently. The voice acting is very hit or miss. Some of the characters are are just too obnoxious to stomach, and the whole thing feels every bit like the blatant cash in that it is. I mean, I want my money back, and yeah, I will say that the TV show is better. But that's about the only thing I can. That's about the only good thing I could say about this movie. That is that it paved the way for for a surprisingly entertaining TV show.